So last Friday, the 3rd of July, DC Universe aired their last episode of DC Daily. For anyone who doesn't know, DC Daily was an entertainment news show streamed Monday through Friday on the DC Universe streaming app. It covered the latest news and going-ons with comics, movies, and TV shows from DC Comics, as well as panels looking at the past and present DC Comics, movies, and TV, in most cases stuff that could be found on the DC Universe app. They also did too many interviews to mention, with names big in both the comic book world, as well as various actors, writers, directors, and producers familiar to DC movies and TV shows. I actually had a chance to appear on the show in an episode dedicated to the DC Universe Fan Appreciation event, and as of this video being made, the episode in its entirety is still on DC's YouTube channel, and you can click on the card in the upper right corner or check the link in the description if you want to check it out. It was one of my fondest moments and a great memory I will always look back on. It had several hosts throughout its run, which began the day DC Universe launched. Most notably were internet personalities and pop culture critics Wolfe, Hector Navarro, Amy Dallen, who was a later addition to the show but a very welcome one, comic book writer Sam Humphries, actress Harley Quinn Smith, and actors Sam Levinne and Echo Kellum, Mr. Terrific himself. Although several other hosts came and went with the rotating group depending on what was being discussed. The show was not without its faults. It was a DC-produced show, so while at times the host opinions did come off more critical than, say, The Walking Dead after show Talking Dead, it never went too hard on what was discussed, and many did criticize the hosts for sometimes coming off a bit overexcited in their reactions, as well as sometimes more shilly than truly talking about the subject that they were talking about. But it was a great show if you were a DC fan. And since DC Universe launched, it was a regular part of my day after returning home from work, and always a welcome part of my day, especially in recent months when seeing fellow DC geeks talk about things I love was a welcome escape from what was going on in the real world. A lot of fans on DC Universe, including myself, assumed the show would likely be on forever, or at least as long as DC Universe was around. It was cheap to produce, a good companion to the service, and would seem to be a good promotional tool. But DC proved that nothing lasts forever, no matter how perfect a home it seems to have, when on June 8th, DC Universe announced the show would end on July 3rd. They didn't go into specifics in their announcement, but did state this year has brought more challenges than the show could overcome. While that's not specific, it would seem to imply the medical situation going on right now. I'm afraid to get too specific due to YouTube being unrelenting to people who say too much about it. But I don't know if anyone has heard, but something has caused a lot of things to shut down recently. Due to the shutdown, DC Daily had to move from their fancy studio full of props and professional lighting to a stay-at-home format of the hosts doing Zoom conversations with each other, as well as whoever they interviewed. In some ways, the situation did improve the show. Due to everyone stuck at home, they got a lot of interviews with people who might have been harder to get if they had required them to show up at the set at a specific time. But the downside was that obviously, through no real fault of their own, the production value took a hit, making the show look more like a lot of pop culture YouTube shows over the professionally produced show it had been. Also, with production on everything halting and DC ceasing publication of comics for around a month due to Diamond Distribution no longer delivering, they ran out of things to promote, especially after the Arrowverse shows ended their seasons. And short of what was airing on DC Universe at the time, no new DC shows or movies were being released or being produced, thus giving the show a lot less to promote, so it had mostly to resort to interviews with actors and comic creators sharing their DC collectibles and talking about when they became DC fans. Not bad interviews at all, but limited in substance compared to the variety of stuff they had been covering. I can only guess since DC Universe does not release their numbers, but I would not be surprised if those things caused viewer numbers to go down, which combined with having nothing to promote, which was probably a big appeal to the show with Warner Brothers and AT&T, the show may have cost more to produce than they felt was worth it, even though the stay-at-home format had to be cheaper to make. Some have speculated this is the first step in DC Universe ending to being absorbed into HBO Max, and Harley Quinn being announced recently to have their first 2 seasons on HBO Max as well as DC Universe, much like with Doom Patrol, has only strengthened that theory with some people. Although it should be noted that a lot of those naysayers had been predicting DC Universe's demise practically from the beginning. I have no idea what's going on behind the scenes, so I can't really comment on any of that, but honestly, as far as DC Daily, I can believe the current crisis may have just been enough to end the show without a bigger agenda being behind it. Either way, DC Universe may not have taken the world by storm in its 450 episodes, but for this fan, it was a welcome bit of content and will be very much missed. The final episode had all the current hosts get together via Zoom, reflecting on their time on the show, their love for DC, and their experience in general. It was a shame they had to end it there and not on the DC Daily couch the show had become known for, but again, not really much they could have done about that. For what they had to work with, it was a fitting ending to a great show. So long, DC Daily, and thanks for all the memories.